So, really quick, uh, I see a lot of non-technical creators and content creators and YouTubers and people online uh, either afraid to speak about a topic and just flat out say that on their streams because they're ignorant of the tech, or they make outright false claims and actively start looking bad to their audience. So, I want to make it known if you have a tech question and you're a streamer or content creator, just ask me. Bring me onto your stream if you need to. It's fine. We can do that together. We can figure it out in advance, hopefully. And I'm happy to provide context, answers, or even just pair with you to educate your audience as you ask me questions. The critical thing here is that if you have a relevant topic and you really want to explore it, but you don't have that expert available to ask questions, I am that expert, and I'm happy to do that. I have historically been more socially awkward, and quite frankly, my social anxiety gets to me. But I'm going to do this all the same because I feel like it's really valuable to other people, and I want to see if it works. I want to see if it gets me out of my shell. Even now, you can watch me. I'm getting nervous um, because this scares the crap out of me. But I'm going to try as an experiment, and if it happens and something good happens out of it, great. The big thing here is that a lot of the content creators that I've kind of seen this morning have been talking about a specific website being censored by Google. And some of the people who don't understand technology have been saying things like, oh, it's the robots.txt file or whatever. And what you have to understand is that the robots.txt file is actually optional. It's not required to get your site indexed by a search engine unless the search engine itself is explicitly saying, look, we're not going to index you unless you have a robots.txt file. Because the actual protocol for robots.txt is, in fact, an optional RFC, which is called a request for comments. And that's the protocol used around that. Now, the important thing about that is that a lot of people consider using a robots.txt file to be a security problem. Because what a robots.txt file does is it can be used to limit what a robot does when it hits your website, but it can also more likely just be used to map out your website and tell a robot where all the parts are that you don't want public are. And so what happens there is people will effectively violate the protocol, download the robots.txt file, look for all the lines that say don't go here, and then just go there. And that creates problems. The end result is that if somebody wants their entire website to be indexed and they don't care, they figure if you can find it, it's fair game, then they won't add a robots.txt file. And that's considered normal because it's safer than giving somebody a list of all the places that they don't want you to touch them. And so the end result of that is that from a security perspective, some website operators have just said, look, we don't really want a robots.txt file. It's a lot of bandwidth. It's a lot of problems. It's a map to all our places that we don't want touched. We don't want to go there. And yeah, you can use it as a please only go to these places and we're not going to list out the places you shouldn't go. That happens all the time. The problem is that most robots will just ignore that anyway. And so trying to get the name right or the user agent of the bot so you can give it specific commands using a robots.txt file is often so difficult that you can literally find community-led lists where they literally duplicate the same bot multiple times with different spellings and case styles, with like the name in lowercase, the name in uppercase, the name in title case, because it's so hard to get right, because it is not legally required that you follow it. And unfortunately, the protocol itself is kind of broken. You have to give a specific bot commands via the user agent that the bot uses, which means that the bot has to identify itself by a name that you already know about in advance. And then it has the option of either following those commands or not doing so. But if you get the title case of the name that you use wrong, for example, use an uppercase O instead of a lowercase o or something like that, it can choose to ignore you according to the protocol because it's not case sensitive. And that is something that's been pointed out by a lot of people. Now, updates to the protocol have attempted to rectify this, but unfortunately, one of the big issues is that this is an entirely optional protocol. More well-behaved bots won't care. They'll take the name of everything in the file, convert everything to lowercase, match against them, and try to do its best to use the configuration settings that you've given. Most bot operators are not that kind. And so as a result of that, you should be aware that the robots.txt file is not a magic panacea. It is not this thing that always gets followed. And so in the case of Google not listing a website or indexing a website, the robots.txt file is kind of sus here that it's not doesn't exist, but at the same time, that by itself wouldn't keep something off of Google because of backlinks and the way links work in general. So keep that in mind. If you have a tech question and you actually want to know how something works because you don't consider yourself an expert, you don't want to look bad on your stream, ask me because I am an expert.